The resolution number 2015-243, authorizing the surplus of equipment listed in Exhibit A.
Good evening once again. We have the resolution of surplus non-operational computer miscellaneous equipment. These have no value right now, although I think the monitors are still in good shape, so we're going to hold on to them. This council of surplus. Everything else, we're going to have to find a way to get rid of it. I talked to Joanne about the bench used or the table, and that she needs to replace it, and she does. But we'll probably do that next year because it costs about up to anywhere up to $1,500. She's making use of other tables right now, but it really was something she used quite a bit with the children, especially in the gym when the weather looks like it is now. So, but everything else, the monitors, we're probably going to use those as backups because they still work. And you know, that's where we're at right now. And everything from the course is going to be lumped in there. It's all computer related, most of it is. Is there any questions?
Questions from council? Council's pleasure.
Move to approve 2015-243. Second.
Okay, Councilmember Jones.
Just, doing our daily and monthly and yearly sweep up our, cleaning up our old stuff and clearing them out.
I actually just wanted to comment, now that we're doing these on a fairly regular basis, we might even want to move them over to the consent agenda because I don't think anybody objects to getting rid of those.
Sure. By the next quarter.
This is on a quarterly basis
Yeah.
these days. That's a good point. Okay, any comments from the audience? Seeing none, further comments from council? Roll call of council, please.
Councilmember Steiger.
Aye.
Councilmember Walker.
Aye.
Councilmember Garberding.
Aye.
Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Taves.
Aye.
Councilmember Olivera.
Aye.
Councilmember Putnam.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2015-1896, amending chapter 2.38.027.
Mayor, council members, this ordinance apparently was brought up a little bit earlier at the last workshop, and it was discussed in-house, and it was actually a little bit of discussion at the non-parks board meeting on the 17th. But what this amendment does is it changes the ordinance and the membership qualifications for the parks board. Number one, it changes the qualifications to allow up to 2 of the commissioners to live outside the city but own residential property within the city to be on the parks board. And the remaining parks board members would have to reside in the city. It also has been changed to require that the youth member of the park board reside in the city, so all the members other than 2 would have to reside in the city. Another change that was made.
What's your name?
Where the hell go?
Another change that is being proposed to be made, which was pointed out at the meeting on the 17th, is that right now the Parks Board consists of 6 members, which at full membership can result in tie votes, potentially result in tie votes. So the proposal is to change the membership to 7 members to help alleviate the potential of ties for the full membership. So staff is recommending the changes as provided in ordinance 2015-1896.
Questions? Councilmember Taves.
When I read the ordinance, it doesn't include, you can add up the number of commissioners, it still equals 6 in the proposed ordinance.
Okay.
Is there an amendment?
If you look at attachment 2 to the agenda bill, it points out consisting of 7 members, with 2 members being commissioners that reside outside the city with residential properties, and the remaining members have to reside in the city.
I guess my only concern is we've got difficulty filling 6 seats. That is another one.
actually, I think we'll have it on hold within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we have a couple of youths that are interested in either the Parks Board or the Planning Commission, so.
Well, it's not the youth, I'm just thinking the entire commission body,
Correct.
you know, because how it comprises seven, I mean.
And we've received another application for.
Other ways of dealing with that would be to have the chair, you know, not vote. So that there would be.
You have to have a quorum.
Further questions from council? What's council's pleasure?
I'm going to need to approve it, but would I approve the amended?
It would be the ordinance 2015-1896, that's
Okay.
attachment
Already
two.
amended.
It's already amended.
Ordinance 2015-1896, residency requirement.
Second. Councilmember Olivera.
We had a meeting with the governance committee and we discussed this at great length, and after listening to our city attorney explain that sometimes in smaller cities it's more difficult to find volunteers, it just made more sense to open it up to allow non-residents, as long as they were able to be residential property owners that have a vested interest in the city. That's why I approve that.
Councilmember Jones.
I have additional comment.
Okay, comment from the audience.
Don Thompson, 416 Second Avenue Southeast. I'm sorry, I see this as change in our ordinance for not to accommodate one or two individuals' desire. I don't think it's necessary. I'm just against that. I think we should have residents that's here in the city that have the potential of using the parks themselves to be on the board. And outside people who have a residence here, that means Joe Blow has a repossessed rental house, he is eligible to be on the Parks Board. What benefit can he provide?
Further comments from the audience?
Gary Nitschke, 102 Beaver Avenue. I'm opposed to these. I agree with what Don just said. I'd also like to add that the changes, I don't agree with the changes either. And I'd like to add that, it seems discriminatory towards those non-owners and the ones that would be coming in from the outside. It's not fair to them, those two. And also that what this does is it seems to be, it takes your pool that you dip into when you're looking to appoint a council person, it takes and cuts it down, because the requirement for a council person, and as I know it right now, is you must be a resident here in the city. So it makes it smaller, your pool. So I'm on the park board, and I don't agree with this.
Further comments from the audience? Come on up.
I'm working on it. It's hard to do both.
Your audience.
Ms. Let's be serious. Jean Bannister, 37248 55th Avenue South. I've been attending park board and council meetings and planning commission meetings for quite a time, and I have noticed that one of the reasons there aren't a lot of people applying for these positions is because it's hard to get the word out to the people who would help the park board. You can't put flyers up in the apartments where people who use the parks live. There are lots of kids at Cobble Court who are playing in the streets, but is there a representation on the park board there or some of the other rental units? there is a vested interest for property owners who have, don't live in the city but may own property in the city, to have a parks system, parks that provide adequate recreation for the residents of the city. And, you know, if the kids are playing in the streets or in the lawns and tearing up the rental units because they're just trying to have fun, and they don't know about or have a pocket park nearby because it hasn't been activated, that's a detriment to the renter or the rental owner. On the other side, there are several people in the audience now who attend meetings but haven't volunteered, haven't put their name in for the park board. I've been asked if I'm going to apply for park board because I've gone for so many meetings, and I prefer to be an outside agitator, I guess. You know, poking the bear with a stick is my job, and it's easier to poke the bear with a stick if I'm not on the park board or on the planning commission, and I can't be on the council. I'm just allergic to all the criticism you guys get. But until the city develops its newsletter, develops its website, has more ways of communicating with underserved communities, the large South Sea Island community in town, the Slavonian and Eastern European immigrants, until we contact those people, or you do, put the money out for that newsletter, do what you can to get more people, have a full quorum, and there's no rule that says the mayor has to accept an applicant who's a residential owner and lives outside of the city. That's her job or his job to appoint that person, and there's no rule that says the council has to approve that appointee if they think they're detrimental. So all this really does, in my mind, is open up the applicant pool for the park board to include people who have an interest in the recreation aspects of the town because they have rentals or they're in town part-time. You know, it's, why cut off your nose to spite your face? Let's make it more inclusive, not less inclusive. Thank you.
Any further comments from the audience? Further comments from council? Councilmember Steiger.
Well, my understanding of this was mainly to try to get the business people, owners that own property and stuff, to get them involved in some of the decisions and everything in the city.
That would be the next ordinance.
Well, I realize it's both of them, but that's where my feeling we should go, is to, rather than, well, people that have apartment complexes in town, also that don't live in town, but I mainly would think we should be reaching out to our business community.
Further comments from council? Councilmember Case.
Yeah, I hear what the audience has said, and we had a pretty lengthy discussion in the governance board meeting about this, and the reason we chose to limit it to residential owners is because business owners are asked to pay higher taxes than your regular residential tax rates, and they could be a detriment to the park board because money spent on park board could potentially raise their taxes, and they have no appreciable interest in parks in the city, where residential owners look at if they can improve the park system within a city, they would improve their property values, they would make their rental properties more desirable to rent out, and a city more desirable to live in. And by expanding the pool, you might find some more qualified candidates that could be more creative in helping us address these issues with our parks, and having that option available for the mayor to decide and recommend to the council, I think, is a good thing rather than a bad thing, because we expand the pool of applicants rather than limit the pool.
Further comments from council? Seeing none, we'll call council, please.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Garfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Hayes?
Aye.
Councilmember Olivera?
Aye.
Councilmember Putnam?
Aye.
Councilmember Sexton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item on the agenda agenda is ordinance number 2015-1897, amending chapter 2.36.4
Mayor, council members, this ordinance is pretty much in the same vein as the ordinance for the Parks Board. The, number one, the membership has been increased from 6 to 7. That's being proposed since there's only 6 members now. And then it's also requiring that the youth member that be on the board would have to reside in the city. And also it would allow that 2 of the full-term members may be a principal or be employed by a business operating in the city of Pacific, with the remaining full-term members having to reside in Pacific. So that would mean that 4 full-term members would reside in Pacific, 2 could be part of the business, and then the Pacific Youth is a 1-year term, and they would have to reside in the city. The staff is recommending approval again of the ordinance.
Questions from council? What's council's pleasure?
Move to adopt ordinance number 2015-1897.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Tate.
Yeah, again, at the governance committee, we had a lengthy discussion on this. You know, not only was it decided that it would help fill vacant positions by expanding the role, but just as I said, the park board, or regarding the park board ordinance, it helps attract the potential of commissioners that could be more helpful and beneficial to the city and helping us with zoning, if they could have experiences in other cities that they could share. Again, it doesn't have to be, we don't have to fill those 2 positions with non-residents. Having that available, you know, for the mayor to appoint and the council to potentially approve, I think expands the pool and benefits our city. And by people who have a vested interest in the city as business owners, they have a vested interest in seeing our business community flourish. And anytime we see improved property values and improved business relationships between city and business, we as a city become a more attractive city to do business in, and therefore can generate more revenue, which will help us improve the city even more.
Thank you. Councilmember Olivera.
I think this was very thorough, or Councilman Kate, this was very thorough.
Comment from the audience. Seeing none? Oh, there's one comment.
Erin, if you want to do that, same position on this one. I'd like to also add that, you know, Gene kind of hit it pretty good there on the, you know, getting the word out and all that. That's one of the problems that the city doesn't do, is the city doesn't get the word out, doesn't have a pool of applications. It's just when needed, you know, the ad will be placed. So, can we have order here? I'm trying to speak, I'm losing my train of thought.
Can you address the council, please?
Yeah. Well, I'm losing my train of thought because I can't. So, no, I'm not trying to be rude to you guys back there, but, okay. So, my position is the same on these ones, this too, and the city should have a pool of applicants and also have the word out. There should be word out in the hallway that we are, you know, looking for applicants for these commissions, okay, and so, anyways, I think that's it. There was one point that, but it doesn't come to mind. I lost my train of thought there for a second.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Further comments from the audience? Any further comments from council? Councilmember Putnam.
Again, as with the other one, this doesn't require the mayor to appoint anybody from out of town. It just expands the pool of available applicants to include people with a significant interest in the town through their business operations within the city. But obviously, if we can fill the commission with entirely residents, the mayor remains free to do that.
Before I address you again, other comments from council? Just making sure, Councilmember Gates.
Yeah, I just want to point out that people who do have a vested interest in this community, i.e. business owners, they can't vote, so they can't really control the legislation and the laws that we pass in the city. But one way that they can get involved in the community is to, volunteer for things like this and share their knowledge. They can't be council members, but they can be, planning commission members. It gives them another avenue to support the city outside of supporting campaigns and lobbying for what they want. And once they become involved in something like this, they'll see some of the problems the city faces and then maybe come up with ideas on how to provide solutions rather than just trying to support campaigns that will support their positions.
Further comments from council?
Okay, seeing none, roll call, council, please.
Councilmember Garberding,
Aye.
Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Hayes,
Aye.
Councilmember Olivera,
Aye.
Councilmember Putnam,
Aye.
Councilmember Steiger,
Aye.
Councilmember Walker.
Aye.
Motion carries.